Hello and welcome to Crucible of Worlds for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are back on Monowhite Painter. It's been a little while, but here we are. And we're going back to a build that predates the last few builds I've playing. So I used to play what I called Grindstone Forge, using Stoneforge Mystic as an alternative route to winning the game. This can sometimes just win games on its own with Kaldra, and it was really strong. However, the initiative made the trying to win with Kaldra plan a bit of a joke, because there was more removal around and your Kaldra just wasn't really good or fast enough to beat their bits and pieces, really. Now that's not so much a thing. We're trying it again, this time with the added addition of Staff of Storyteller. So the way this deck tries to win is basically just playing a Stoneforge Mystic and riding the Kaldra, which absorbs your opponent's resources until you can play Painter Servant, and then activate a Grindstone targeting your opponent, which will mill them all because all the cards in the library are the same colour. We find our Grindstone usually with as a Saga, but we also have Oswald Fiddlebender here, which can sacrifice artifacts to find other artifacts. So we can use this to go from a 0-drop like an Ancient Den to a 1-drop like a Grindstone, or we can sack a Grindstone into a Painter Servant, etc, etc. That's kind of the plan there. We've got some reasonable tools to help us get there. So we've got some Wastelands to interact with our opponent's mana base, Urza Saga, which we can also add to our beatdown plan, a couple of Karakas in the mana base and an Eiganjo, and some Horizon Canopies that we're hoping to recur with our one-of Crucible of Worlds that we can find off of Oswald. Mother of Runes, Esper Sentinel, Ethersworn Canonist is really good as well. So this shuts down elves as well as storm decks, and it puts blue decks into a real bind where they have to either cast a cantrip or their business spell. They can't do both in one turn, so it's a really potent tool for that. But we've decided to add in Staff the Storyteller because I was very impressed when I played with this yesterday and I wanted to see what it was like here. So this wants you to make tokens. So we're already doing that with Urza Saga, and we're already doing that with Stoneforge Mystic into Batterskull and Kaldra. So we've already got some token generation in here, and another copy of Staff the Storyteller is really good because it puts counters on both of them because it makes a token when it comes in. So this just seems like a pretty good way of giving us some card advantage, and White's not really known for card advantage. It also means that we've squeezed in a Retrofitter Foundry as an Urza Saga target. This is instead of our Shadow Spear, which could be a bit awkward. We do have the Batterskull if we need lifelink, but this is just going to give us tokens. I don't really like Retrofitter's Foundry in decks like this too much, but when it comes with additional card draw because of our Staff of the Storyteller, yeah, that seems great to me. So that's the plan for that one. We've got a few other silver bullets. Portable Hole, which is a piece of removal we can tutor with Oswald Fiddlebender to blow up things like Collector Roof, main deck, etc. Pithing Needle, and this is an Urza Saga target that's really useful, whether it's Sneak Attack or Grizzlebrand or whatever. Shuko, Nomads and Core, there's loads of stuff this can hit. Solgan Lantern, we needed a bit of Graveyard Hate main. We could only fit in one piece, and this is the one we've gone for. And Skrelv. So this is not something we can get off of as a Saga, but we can use Oswald to find it. It's a Mother of Runes that's an artifact, but pretty much. Not quite, but close enough in terms of protecting our guys. And it also has the added bonus of being an artifact, so we can then sack it and turn it into a painter. That's pretty much it for the main deck. Looks pretty cool to me, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. Sideboard-wise, some Deafening Silence for mainly Storm combo, but sometimes we might bring it in against something like Reanimator if we think it's going to be good. We have 4 Swords Plowshares. We might need to kill stuff, especially post-board when people are bringing in things like Collector Roost and so on, so we're going to want those. Some Artifact Enchantment Hate in the form of March by the Body Light and Loran. Loran is nice as a one-of because we can bounce it with Karakas. We have some Graveyard Hate in the form of 1 Lion Sash, which can be found either with Oswald or Stoneforge Mystic. We've got Grafdigger's Cage. This is good against elves as well because it stops cards coming in from libraries, so this is quite nice. And again, this can be found with Urza Saga. And if we ever want to go and get Painter, we can always just cycle the Grafdiggers via Oswald into Painter and then win the game. So that's pretty good. And then we have 3 Containment Priests. So this could have been more Graveyard Hate, but there's a big increase in natural orders and show and tells recently, largely thanks to Atraxa. So I wanted 3 of these to see how these go. This is also pretty nice against the Death and Taxes decks that are leveraging, obviously, things that blink, as well as Ether Vial, so we can kind of shut them down a little bit that way. And our matchup against Death and Taxes is a little bit awkward, but I'm hoping the card advantage from Staff of Storyteller will get us there. Like, I think I am positive record against Death and Taxes with Monowhite Painter, but obviously it's a deck that has a lot of annoying pieces, so if we can shut down their best draws, which is what Containment Priest does, then that's quite nice too. I think that's about it for the deck. So before we jump into a league, let me just say, like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and they really help my channel out. Also, I'm monetized now, so if you want to go back and watch my older videos, I get paid for that too, so please do that. And there's some really good stuff in there as well. Also, in the description, I've put a link to a Discord that I've started where you can come and just talk about what I do on the channel or just other legacy stuff in general. It's not a thing just for subscribers or whatever. Anyone can join it and just hang out. There's no like Patreon charge for it. I just think it's nice to sort of build little communities of legacy players. And there are some stuff in there. If you do want to support me financially, you can find some stuff in there. But for the most part, I just want to hang out with people, really. All right, let's jump into a Legacy League with this deck that I guess we're going to call Oswald Paints a Story. Kind of got all the parts in it. All right, let's get started. All right, so this is our opening hand. We have a little bit of removal. We have a way of finding our combo. This one seems fine. Maybe we can keep this. Like, our deck doesn't have a lot of removal in anyway, so having our one piece of removal is not the worst. I think we will flirt out this Grindstone now. Our plan is to turn this into something else anyway. That's us done for the turn. Right, Scalding Tarn, and nothing from our opponent there. So we could play into a Daze here, if we play one of our things. I think the higher prize here is the Oswald, so we're going to play the Stoneforge and see if this gets a reaction from our opponent. If we'd have drawn another land this turn, I would have been inclined to just wait a turn. But I think if the fact that we don't know when we're getting another land is better just to try and push through what they've got here and stick the Oswald. Alright, this resolved. Interesting. So we'll go and get our other equipment and then pass the turn. Okay, our opponent just didn't do anything on their first turn there apart from play a land. Underground Sea. This feels more combo-y. A Duress. This doesn't impact our hand right now. We have two equipments, so that's not an issue. They might take the Kaldra if they're something like Doomsday and want to keep their life total high. Yeah, that feels like what's happening. This could be a bunch of decks, but I kind of think it might be Doomsday. It's got that vibe right now. Okay, Wasteland is a pretty good find for us. We can start stripping away our opponent's mana sources here. If they are Doomsday, mana's going to be a real premium for them. We can jam this Batterskull. So our opponent could be Esper, which is why I don't want to jam the Batterskull into play. They're more likely to have something like a Prismatic Ending than they are something like a Sudden Edict. Alright, so we get a threat down here. Alright. Let's play this Oswald out. It might make them choose to not use removal here. If we only had one Oswald, we'd attack first and try and force the Oswald through. But I want to try and see if I can get some damage across. Because I think they could be on Ad Nauseam Tendrils. Whether on that or Doomsday, their life total is quite an important resource to them. So if I can make them fight over this instead of messing with our board, then we're more likely to get the 5 damage in. A Daze. Sure. We will not pay. And we'll get ourselves a little 5 damage there. Our opponent's shuffling away. And a Brainstorm. The Daze does make me think it's much more in line with Doomsday than some sort of Ad Nauseam. Ad Nauseam decks tend not to run Daze because they've got things like Lion's Eye Diamond, so their protection tends to be just discard spells. Personal Tutor. Okay, so this is a Doomsday card. Unfortunately, we don't have the mana source for the Grindstone here. Otherwise, we can activate the Grindstone and take the Doomsday off the top of their deck. What we can do here, though, is we can play the Canonist and now slow them down a lot. And also give us lethal damage. I think the Doomsday matchup is actually relatively poor for this deck, so if we can squeak one, it'd be quite nice. This probably demands a counterspell, because this just means our opponent won't be able to win next turn. And if they can't win next turn and do a pass the turn line, they die. And if they can't do a pass the turn line, they die, because they'll never be able to cast the thing and do it in enough time. So we're just pressuring them here, and this should hopefully force some action or a concession. There's a concession. Excellent. Okay, so we got one on the board versus Doomsday. So the problem with Doomsday is that they can quite happily play around things like Deafening Silence. So a lot of our tools don't actually matter, which is not really where I want to be, unfortunately. Grafdigger's Cage doesn't do anything here. Deafening Silence might do something, or it might do nothing, which is a pretty horrible place to be in. Pithing Needle can name some of their things. I don't think we're going to get much joy out of Saga Lantern here. Yeah, so Pithing Needle can name some of their cyclers. I guess a Deafening Silence is better than a Soul Guide Lantern. Start a Storyteller, all this stuff seems fine. Esper Sentinel can slow them down. I don't realistically know how much we're going to be using Mother of Runes. And the one that's an artifact is probably just better. So I guess we can take these 2 Deafening Silences in to slow our opponent down. We could also play things like Containment Priest just because it attacks for 2. But I think we're probably looking at something like this configuration. And we could bring in things like Plows just so we can, if they do a short line where their pile isn't empty, when they cast a Thassa's Oracle, we can interact with it. But I think at that point the game's probably done anyway. Crucible of Worlds is a little bit slow. But if we can set up a Wasteland lock, that will put the game away. So I think as a one-of, it's fine to have. Lion Sash, do I want this as a way of pressuring our opponent? Is it better than a Mother of Runes? No, we kind of want them to, at least one of the Mother of Runes, right? So we can protect our guy from the little bit of removal they might have. Alright, it's fine. So we're going to be naming black with Painter's Servant for the purpose of Snuff Out. Alright, so our hand requires another mana source to do anything, so we'll mulligan this. Alright, we have a sideboard card. We got some good stuff here, actually. I think it's probably the Portable Hole that goes here. We've got a pretty serviceable Deafening Silence into Ethersworn Canonist plan. Now, our opponent can kill us turn 1. Doomsday doesn't often kill on turn 1, but it's certainly possible. Okay, a Doomsday. We get to see our opponent's pile in a second. Or the stuff that isn't in their pile, so we can work out what is in their pile from that. And see if there's any interesting sideboard cards. Right, so they've chosen their cards so we can see the other stuff that they're not doing. So Lines Like Diamond isn't in the pile. Are they? They're on an Ideas Unbound list. There's an Edge of Autumn there, Edge of Autumn there, Street Wraith. Street Wraith. Street Wraith. Okay, so they haven't got a Cycler Heavy pile. Understood. So our Deafening Silence might be able to do something here. We do have a choice between Stoneforge Mystic and Ethersworn Canonist next turn. I think it's probably the Stoneforge because that represents us being able to kill our opponent before they draw through their deck naturally anyway. Let's play this one out. We'll go and get ourselves a Kaldra Compleat. And then next turn we can bash for 5. So we have a 2-turn clock. So if our opponent just has to naturally draw their cards, then we'll be okay. But if they've got instants, they can draw in our turn and theirs. They might just have a bunch of guys on top anyway. That's planes. And we activate this. Put the Kaldra. So they might have just stacked 2 Thassa's Oracle on there anyway. I'd rather hold up the illusion of Source of Plowshares and play this Grindstone right now. Because of the Deafening Silence, if I do have a Source of Plowshares and they go for it now, they've died. But they might just have to go for it anyway. And we can get a Grindstone off of the Urza Saga and remove the last card from the library in a second anyway. Okay, so we've got 2 cards left in their library. Now they're going to have 1 card left in their library, and it's going to be the Thassa's Oracle. Yeah, so they just put a load of lands in their pile. Thassa's Oracle. That'll do it. Okay. So if we did have a Source of Plowshares, it doesn't work there because their library's empty. So, do we want anything else here? Or are we just happy with just what we've got? I think my reasoning was fine before, so I'm just going to resubmit. Hopefully being on the play, we can slow our opponent down a little bit more, so they can't do Dark Ritual into Doomsday on turn 1 would be nice. What does this hand do? This on turn 2 is kind of slow. I think we need to find Deafening Silence here. Yep, okay, we can keep this. Our Life Total doesn't matter in this matchup, so that's nice. We have our combo sewn up. We just need 1 more land for it. I think we... Do we want the Silence or do we want the Stoneforge? That's genuinely a difficult choice here. Do we want the Canonist or the Stoneforge? If our Deafening Silence gets countered, we'd very much like to drop the Canonist. So I think we do it this way. Play a little bit cautiously. So this will require a Force of Will to stop. Because they don't have any days or anything right now. Alright, so we're not dead on our next turn. Big fan of not being dead immediately. Float Strand. It did just look like the sort of turbo blue-black Doomsday, not the Esper Doomsday, so we shouldn't have to worry about Prismatic Ending. Sure, so the spell for the turn is Lines Like Diamond. Pretty good spell. Eiganjo. Okay, this is pretty good for us. We can play this one out. We'll play this. We'll name black, so it can't be snuffed out. Also makes our Grindstone look awesome. It's always nice. We have the 3 mana now. So next turn we probably just play Canonist, because we can just get the Grindstone the following turn off of our Saga. Ponder. So our opponent's only spell this turn is going to be Ponder. So you can kind of lock them down in 2 different ways. And because our opponent's only got one spell a turn, if we can... they chose not to shuffle their library with the Ponder, which is a little bit concerning for us. So we'll attack here. So we have a choice of making a Canonist here or a Saga. I think the Canonist is just the better play here. But if they Hercules recall us... If they Hercules recall us, then we can play an Urza Saga that's only a 1-1. Doesn't really get us anywhere. Would I rather protect us from Hercules recall and making a Saga token after they've done that? Hercules recall doesn't stop with Deafening Silence anyway. I think we're just going to make this Canonist here. This means if they've got like a single spell, like a Brazen Borrower, they can't hit both of these. And then the next turn, this gets us a Grindstone. And we can play our third land, and we can just hold it up. So at any point our opponent casts a spell, we mill their entire deck. And they just get slowly beaten down by what we have in play, because they can't cast a spell. That's the plan here. We don't just want a Grindstone and give them an opportunity to then just blow up our painter or whatever. But they did keep off the Ponder, so we could be in trouble here. Right, so they're cracking their fetch land. So they only wanted one of the cards off their Ponder here. What's our opponent aiming for right now? This could just be a... like a Consider or Brainstorm or something to try and find some purchase in the rest of the game. Alright, so we've got that down. I think if we get to untap, we probably win the game. So this turn is a big one. I can't think of any cards that get rid of both of these at the same time. Force of Vigor can, but they're not a deck that plays Force of Vigor. And there would have to be an R turn as well to pitch it. Maybe there's something horrible I've forgotten about that's about to blow us out. I don't know. Okay, so just casting the Doomsday here. Interesting. Just trying to think if our opponent has anything that costs 0 mana. I guess it doesn't have to cost 0 mana. They can cycle something in response, crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, and have 3 mana to mess with one of our things. So maybe we're not supposed to just immediately Grindstone our opponent. Alright, let's see what they've exiled here. Chain of Vapor is something they have. Hercules Recall, as I said they would probably have, is gone. So there's no Ideas Unbound. I can't see any Fatal Pushes, which is something I'd imagine they'd have here. So that's something where we can't just immediately Grindstone our opponent out. So, I'm trying to think if there's something we can get here to mess with them in a different way. We just get the Grindstone, I think is the correct play here. And then play this Eiganjo. And play this Grindstone out. Go to attacks. I need our opponent to cast a spell. They can't... they can do double cycle here, can't they? We might have to Grindstone in response to a cycle here. Edge of Autumn. So if we Grindstone them now, they might just be able to have the Thassa's Oracle right now. Just trying to see how many... So there's one Street Wraith here. One Street Wraith here, so that's 2. So we've seen that they have 3. So there's a Street Wraith in their pile. So if we let this resolve, I think we have to Grindstone them now. I hate this as a play, but I don't think we have a choice. Okay, no, we got it. Okay. So they didn't have another Cycler in hand. I am curious what the cards in their hand were. But, alright, we managed to get there. So we got a win off of a matchup that I'm not happy with, generally speaking. I think generally speaking we lose this one most of the time. So they can go really fast under us and they get to ignore Deafening Silence most of the time. And Grindstone, by the time it's online, is often too slow. This time we managed to thread the needle by having all of our hate pieces and stuff and our combos naturally. Alright, round 2. We're on the play for round 2. We have a Stoneforge Mystic and as a Saga plan here. I think we can keep this. We can also wasteland our opponent into the dirt, hopefully, which is always fun. Our game plan really isn't about this Grindstone, but if we can bait out some sort of response with it, then I'm happy about that. Alright, we did not get response out of it. Sure. It's also a turn that we can play this now and make sure our constructs are bigger when the time comes. Once upon a time. So we're going to get a reasonable idea of what our opponent's deck is from this. Could be elves, could be some sort of initiative deck, which attacking them mana-wise is quite effective. Grist. This looks more on the artifacts, elf side of things. A Bayou, okay. A Green Sun Zenith. Alright. Understood, opponent. Okay, so we don't want to play the Wasteland now. We want to just get our Crucible of Worlds up and running. So I think we are on play this Saga, play this, get ourselves a cheeky little Kaldra. The other option we had there was playing a Wasteland, so we can untap and double Wasteland our opponent if they don't make a land drop here. But I think we might just be on Kaldra plus Wasteland next turn. Because if we don't present a threat and we just try and disrupt our opponent, they'll eventually get through that anyway, and it's not going to make any difference. We do have to worry about our Urza Saga going away. We don't have a Mox Opal in this build, so we can't go and find that. We can't go and find an Ether Vial either. Why would Symbiote? Sure. Alright. Okay, so our opponent's got 2 cards we know about in hand. How are we going to win this game? Probably not with the Grindstone. So we can waste on the Dryad Arbor. That takes them off of creatures and mana. I quite like that as a play. So we'll stick this in. Waste on this Arbor. Put in our threat. And see how we go. Next turn we can get Pithing Needle on Wirewood Symbiote. That's probably the best option we have. Okay, so this is just the Elvish Vision we knew about. Our opponent might not want to make a land drop until... Like, if they've got Cradle in hand, they might be sandbagging it for when they can pretty much just win off the mana. Alright, so there's a Cradle. This might just be... Okay, so they're probably getting Allosaurus Shepherd here, which is something we can Pithing Needle, which we probably have to, otherwise we'll lose the game. Because they're just getting a win condition. Oh no, Heritage Druid. Okay, this is even worse for us. This means they can play all sorts of stuff. They can bounce the Elvish Visionary here to untap their Heritage Druid. Give themselves more mana and the ability to draw another card here. Oh, just a straight up natural order. How bad is this going to be? This isn't lethal though. Atraxa. I don't think Atraxa in Elf decks is good personally. I think Torsten is just better because it just draws you 7 cards, whereas this... What's this going to draw them? 2 cards? Maybe 3? We'll choose Green Sun Zenith, Gaea's Cradle, and Elvish Visionary. Yeah, so they got 3 cards out of that. Doesn't seem like a lot to me. There's no point hitting their Cradle now either, because we know they've got another one coming. Obviously, they can have double mana with it, which is a little bit scary for us. I think that's probably not how we're winning this game. We can bounce this Atraxa and keep beating though. Let's float some mana. What is going to be useful here? It probably just is the Pithing Needle. We put Pithing Needle on Wirewood Symbiote. So if we bounce this, they've got 4 creatures. So they can tap for 4, and then this will be another 4. And then they can tap the elves. Interesting. Interesting indeed. I guess we probably just played this out with our spare thing. I think we can attack with the Phyrexian Germ token. If they block, then we're kind of missing 1 point of damage by not attacking with the Stoneforge. Okay. So now we have a choice. Do we can try and waste them off Cradle, but then they're still going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, this is this the same Visionary? I can't remember now. I think we just have to get rid of Atraxa though. There's the Visionary. Yeah, so they still have the other Visionary. So they can Green Sun Zenith for 7, which can put another Atraxa into play, which doesn't do anything. They need 8 mana. Oh wait, no, they've got the 3 mana here, haven't they, for the guys? Is that lethal? I haven't done the maths. Alright, that's quite a big guy. So 3 of these are attack. Yeah, this is lethal. So this is going to be, what, 11 plus all these? Yeah. Yep, sure. We got done there. Okay, we've got a lot of sideboarding options here, though. So Grafdigger's Cage is good. Removal spells are good. Containment Priest does stuff. Much Further Light is another removal spell. So these are all things that I'm interested in playing here. Crucible of Worlds, as much as I love the card, doesn't feel very good here. This isn't a Skrelv, Mother of Runes type game either, so these can go. The Pithing Needle definitely has text. Saga Lantern doesn't do anything. Staff of the Storyteller feels pretty weak here, as does Retrofitter Foundry. Are you getting rid of all of these? We can have a Lion Slash if we want one. I don't really think we do. Just in case they have removal, we could keep a Mother of Runes in. But I think this is probably the setup we're looking at here. Esper Sentinel is pretty bad as well. But it is a 1-drop that we can turn into Painter's Servant off of an Oswald, which is quite important for us. Do I want anything differently here? No, I think this will do. 1 Staff of the Storyteller. That isn't a great number of Staff of the Storyteller here. Maybe we don't want that and we want... What do you want here? Just a Skrelv is another 1-drop artifact. We can give our guy protection from a removal spell if they do have one. Sure. I'll submit like this. Like, Ethersworn Canonist is great here, and we have double Wasteland, so I think we do keep this, even though I don't like how many artifacts we have here. Force of Vigor is something we have to worry about. So next turn we're probably making this Canonist, and then we can Wasteland them into the dirt. So they get one spell this turn, and then, because they're not casting artifact spells, they only get one. If they Thoughtseize us here, that's pretty grim, but... What is this? Green Sun's Zenith, sure. A Dryad Arbor. Understood, opponent. Depending on what we draw informs what land we play here in a big way. Kaldra Compleat. Okay, we're just playing this Wasteland and playing this Canonist out. So they can only cast one non-artifact spell a turn, which means one elf or one sorcery. So I don't know if they have any artifacts in their decks. They're down to one spell a turn, whereas we get to play multiple things. And we also can Wasteland our opponent into the dirt here, hopefully. Collector Roof is going to be a real problem for us because it's going to shut these lands down. That's something I'm going to have to be pretty careful about. There is also the possibility our opponent has a Progenitus, so milling them with Grindstone might not be the most effective, because it'll just leave them with one card in their deck that they can then draw. Which, you know, which might probably be good enough to win the game, but we can't rely on it as an instant, we kill you in one hit button. If our opponent doesn't play a land here, then they're in for a world of hurt. But we'll see. Quirion Ranger. So this returns a forest untapped type creature. This is very good against our Wastelands, unfortunately. That kind of blunts our Wasteland strategy. Urza Saga. So I guess we're just on the Urza Saga train now. Would I like to trade an Ethersworn Canonist for their two guys? I don't think I would. Although we can use the Wasteland to force some action. I don't think that's worth doing. So Dryad Arbor is a forest, as is this Bayou. So we can punish our opponent if they return a forest for something. So they could cast an Abrupt Decay this turn. Okay, they're just getting a Dryad Arbor. So if they target a creature with this, we can Wasteland it. So that's good. Is this going to be a natural order straight up here? Yep. Nothing we can do about this. So probably going to get the Atraxa, which again I don't think is worth playing in Elves, to be honest. This situation is probably going to be okay for them. So they're going to draw a forest and it's once upon a time an instant. It is. Oh wow, they might get an additional card out of it. They might just take this Reclamation Sage because it'll blow up our Canonist. If this is the Torsten, they'd be drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. So they chose Green Sun, Zenith, Forest, Once Upon a Time, Reclamation Sage. And we still can't use our Wastelands because of the Quirion Ranger. Yeah, really annoyed that this was their elf that they had. Our opponent has to go to clean up. They discarded Once Upon a Time. Right, so we've got our Urza Saga ticking up now. I think we are just losing this game, to be honest. Like Torsten in this situation would also be beating for 7. Play a forest, I suspect. Reclamation Sage. Sure, let's see what this targets. It could target our Urza Saga here. It's just going to target our Canonist. Seems pretty reasonable to me. Goodbye, Canonist. If they did this first, they could have got another point of damage in. That's a forest. I doubt they're going to Green Sun Zenith here, but they might just play another elf. Okay, if they start untapping stuff, then we can stop that. So we can Wasteland this. If we draw Painter's Servant on the next turn, we won't be able to kill our opponent. I honestly think we're just best hoping for the Painter draw here. Sure. So Green Sun Zenith X is 1. So this is just going to be... Okay, so they got this guy so they can repeatedly Reclamation Sage. Alrighty then. So this is the turn we need to win the game, really. Draw a Painter's Servant, please, deck. Did not draw a Painter's Servant. What is our out here? We're going to lose this Grindstone pretty sharpish. Let's make another guy here. So we can get the Grafdigger's Cage to stop our opponent's Natural Orders and Green Sun Zeniths. Or we can get the Pithing Needle to stop them Reclamation Saging, which is a thing that's on board. Alternatively, we can get Pithing Needle named Quirion Ranger and then Wasteland our opponent twice. Yeah. The problem with the double Wasteland line is it shuts us off from being able to win with Painter. I think we're just getting Pithing Needle here and naming Wirewood Symbiote. Yeah, we're not in a great spot right now. But again, we can draw Painter's Servant and win the game next turn. but we've only got one more draw step, which is why I think playing to the line to try and win next turn is the correct thing. Because you don't really have any like sweepers or anything, so we can't deal with our opponent's board here. Like there's a million ways that we lose this game, and there's one way that we win it. So I'd rather play to win than play to lose slower. Once upon a time, not particularly scary. Elvish Visionary, sure. So they can draw some cards. And a Nettle Sentinel. Like, we're very much dead on the next turn anyway. None of this stuff. Oh, okay. So they could keep going this turn now. Alright, opponent. Again, I don't think it's worth us wastelanding here. We just need to keep our cool and hope to draw Painter's Servant next turn. Hope that we get another turn. They don't get to why I would Symbiote back the Visionary. So they might be stopped here, depends what's in their hand. Alright, it looks like we're just taking 7 this turn and we get one more draw step to try and win the game. We have 4 Painter's Servants in our deck. Any of them win us the game. It's not the one, is it? We're just dead here. Yeah, we got bodied pretty hard by elves there. Like, the elf deck is incredibly strong. They have some Collector Roofs and things like that in their deck as well, which is a pretty nice one. We definitely have the tools to win this matchup. We kept a pretty land-heavy hand and drew blanks for pretty much the whole game here. We just drew, like, lands and Kaldra. And we didn't get to leverage our Wastelands. If this was another elf, we'd probably win this game, because we Wasteland them back so far that they can't deploy stuff, and they're never actually getting up to 3 mana for the Reclamation Stage. But the chips did not fall that way, unfortunately. But such is life. On to round 3. We're on the draw. We've got a Canonist, a bit of Wasteland. We've got an Urza Saga. So we can play a Saga game. We've kind of got a bunch of stuff. It seems keepable, but not great. Alright, things are just looking up. Let's try our mother out. Excellent. Savannah. So our opponent could be somewhere along the Maverick spectrum. It's been in quite a popular deck lately. Sure. Don't mind losing that. So we have a portable hole for the Collector Roof that our opponent might have. So we have 2 choices here. We have Canonist or Sentinel. Tough choice. I don't think we want to play out the Servant here. I think we're playing out this Saga though. Yeah, I think we'll play out the Canonist here. Something on board. It might star our opponent down so they can't do like creature and removal so easily. It might attract a little bit of removal from our opponent, which isn't the worst either. We're just trying to run our opponent out of removal spells. Okay, so we're looking more towards the Bant side of things. So there's a Plow. So we basically made our opponent use 2 removal spells on 2 guys that aren't necessary for us to win the game. I like that. So our opponent could be a natural order deck. So if they... okay, so Fairy here is pretty annoying. They're going to bounce our as a Saga. Yep, that sets us back quite badly. A Grindstone. We could Wasteland our opponent here. These decks don't run days as a general rule. So I'm just going to play this Sentinel out. And I think we want to waste our opponent off of blue mana. And then we can attack the Teferi next turn. And just keep it down so it can't bounce. And then build up our mana base again. And hopefully combo off. The Savannah definitely threw me for a loop to begin with. Made me think our opponent was on something they're not. They might regret that choice now. I don't know. Right, so we have our Saga back. So our opponent can play a Death Touch Snake. So we want to play our spell pre-combat in case they want to counter it. We get at least forced attacks. So I think we're supposed to play the Fiddlebender this turn. So it's active next turn, so we can do some more broken stuff. Because if they want to interact with this, it means that we get to hit this without fear of the Ice Fang. That's why I've gone to sequence it this way. Because if this gets countered, I don't care that much. Alright. If they have the snake, they have the snake. But at least we keep the snake off the board so they can't natural order it. They might just make it and then natural order it and not use it to block anyway. So let's see how bad it is. We have the Karakas for an Atraxa. So it won't represent damage on us. This could just be getting a Dried Arbor end of turn and then untap into natural order. That's sort of where these bank control decks are at these days. Alright, so they've got another Tundra, so they can play blue spells again. We're getting one end of turn here. Could be an Endurance. A Prismatic Ending at instant speed. And they're paying. So our Oswald is gone. So our opponent's just cast 3 removal spells and a Teferi so far. Understood, opponent. You would like to remove our things. Do you want to play out a Karakas here? Or do you want to play out a Wasteland? Genuinely not sure. Maybe we'll attack our opponent and get some more information first. Attack Teferi. So I think we play out this Karakas this turn. We'll play out a Painter's Servant. They've used a lot of removal spells here. This is half the removal spells in their deck's already gone. So I don't think the colour we name matters here as long as it's not red or blue. For the purposes of potential Pyroblast they might have of their 5 colour, and the fact that they have Force of Will in their deck that we don't want to turn on. This Painter's Servant represents a kill on the next turn. Force of Will pitching Dress Down, and they're paying for the Sentinel attacks. I think we're okay just to hang this Grindstone out. We're probably getting Retrofitters off of our Urza Saga here. Or we're getting the Saga Lantern so we can stop an Uro. Depends what happens this turn. We're definitely making construct tokens. Staff of Storyteller. Oh baby. This is a matchup where it's going to be real good. We could get the Pithing Needle for the Teferi, but I think we're just better off getting a Retrofitters here. This one out. Go to tax. Attack the Tefers. I think we're supposed to hold this Wasteland as a mana source, because then we can play and crack our Staff of the Storyteller if we want to. And any additional mana we have now is just going to be really good with Retrofitters. Dress Down is something our opponent has that can just blow up our construct token, which is annoying, but we can live with it. And play these ones out here. I think if this resolves, we're odds on to win this game, I would say. Oh, wowzers, trousers. Love to see it. Go to tax. All creatures at Teferi. I'm expecting our construct token to die here. We will draw a card off the Storyteller stuff because we wanted a prismatic ending on this guy. You're going to pay. Yep, so putting it on the construct. As I expected, the construct died. And we're going to draw here a card here in case we get a land. We drew a land. And what a land. This makes tokens. Tokens makes cards. We're not going to play out this Grindstone. We can save this for later. If we play 2, our opponent won't try and blow up our Grindstone, but they might try and blow up our Grindstone if it's just one hanging out there on its own. Okay, so we've got the superior draw engine. This is a good place for us to be. Let me go to tax. All creatures attack Teferi, please. Our opponent is hanging out with a potential hard cast Force of Will here, but we're not going to actually put anything on the stack. So we've already played our land, so we don't need to do anything until our opponent's turn anyway. Yeah, we are ahead in this game. This stuff is going to do some real work in the very near future. Alright, let's make a token here. Let's draw a card. Oh, baby. Let's make another token. Get another cannon. So these are probably going to get hit by Dress Down. But we're getting so much value here. I think I would like this Soul Red Lantern, please. We will get rid of Prismatic Ending, I guess. Let's go to tax here. Attack all creatures. How many of these are dying? None of them. Wowzers, trousers. Okay. We'll play our Urza Saga out. So we're going to be drawing a card soon from our Retrofitters. And then we'll draw a card from our Staff of the Storyteller. Yeah, sorry, we're going to put a counter on our Staff of the Storyteller, draw a card, and it'll still have 1 charge left. This is the value town right here. So we have Uro beaten in 2 different ways. Supreme Verdict doesn't really stop us here. We've got so much advantage going on. At some point, we might find a Painter's Servant, which will... Okay, they've just conceded. Staff of the Storyteller, baby. Woo! Obviously, a lot of that work is done by Urza Saga as well, but the combination of the 2 means that we're never going to run out of cards. I wouldn't draw the second one if we didn't have the stuff. Alright, let's go. Sideboarding. A tougher choice here for sure. Teferi. We're probably looking at things like Uro as well. Deafening Silence has some text here. Lion Sash is something I would very much like in this matchup. As for the rest of our deck, honestly, I think it's fine. Ethersworn Canonist at least attacks, so Deafening Silence can definitely slow our opponent down. But it's not going to be that troubling for them. Whereas at least Ethersworn Canonist pumps our other stuff as an artifact. It can be turned into a Crucible of Worlds, and it attacks, so it just does a lot more. The question is, what do we replace our Lion Sash with? Possibly this Portable Hole? That doesn't feel like it's doing a lot of work for us. We didn't see much more of our opponent's deck. They just look like a straight up Bant deck, so I don't know if we want these Containment Priests or not for something like a Natural Order. But they didn't really have enough creatures for natural order deck. So there might just be like a Bant control deck trying to win with an Uro. I still don't think we want to source the Plowshares here. The one thing we might want is the hole to tutor and kill a Collector Roof maybe. But we have lots of ways of winning around Collector Roof. So I think we're just going to run about like this and then we can reappraise the situation later. Now we can just make a load of construct tokens if we want to. This is a turn 3 Goldfish if we want it. I don't think this is a matchup where we actually want the turn 3 Goldfish. I think we'd rather leverage the Urza Saga for value. Force our opponent's resources out on that. Wowzers. Yeah, we can play a lot of Urza Saga game here. So we're probably going to play... I don't know what we play here. It's a tough choice between the... I guess we can play the Painted Servant out, because that's going to force them to remove. We don't really care if they remove our Painted Servant. They did not shuffle with their Ponder. So we want at least one of those cards. Right, here's our Urza Saga. I think we'll play the Canonist out here. Because this means they can't do lots of cantrip chains. I think the Painted Servant is too low impact on this board. That's why I didn't want to play. I want to play something slightly more impactful. I imagine our Wastelands aren't going to get a lot of use in this matchup now. They know we have them. They're going to try and fetch around it as best they can. Although I don't know how easily they can fetch around it in their 3-colour deck. Alright, so we got the Canonist. There's also an artifact to pump our Urza Saga tokens when the time comes. We have to watch out for our opponent having Dress Down mana open when we cast a Painted Servant, because it doesn't get to choose anything as it comes in if they have Dress Down. So that's something important to play around. Sure. They're ploughing our 2 mana 2/2. They missed their land drop. Interesting. So if we play a Saga this turn, we can use it to activate the Saga, and then we activate the Saga again. No, it doesn't work. We'll miss 1 token here. So I think we're just going to play the Plains here. And we're playing the Urza Saga game now. Urza Saga was a real brutal printing for a lot of these sort of slower control decks, because they usually have to spend multiple cards to answer what comes out of a Saga. It's a good card though. It's nice that there's a card that is of this high power level to help the non-blue decks really catch up. Alright, so this is Dress Down mana if they want it. We are just deep into the Urza Saga train here. I think we just want the Soul Guide Lantern here for now. We'll take this plow. Because we've got 2 other Urza Sagas coming. So we can get the Grindstone later when we have enough mana to do everything in one go. No Dress Down there, it's pretty brutal. Like, if they're just sitting around with counter spells in hand, we're just going to keep playing these constructs. And they're going to have a bad time. A Dress Down. Sure, so this kills our constructs now. Interesting that they didn't do it to save themselves 3 damage. Oh, they've done an end step. Okay, so they're making a Phyrexian Dreadnought here. Maybe that's what they're on. So you sometimes see Dress Downs just as a control card thing. Not like the dedicated things. They might have just brought more in because they're good against us. It does make me wonder. Oh, like Bant Dreadnought isn't a thing. Okay, so they're just doing Uro things. Okay. We suspected they might be playing Uros. Do we want to play the Wasteland game with our opponent here or not? Our opponent has the mana up for a plow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can make a construct now, and then next turn we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, so we can play the Servant, activate the Grindstone, target our opponent. Or we could try and double spell this turn. I'm going to try double spell this turn, actually. Let's try this Stoneforge. This is pretty strong bait, because Kaldra can beat the Uro in combat eventually. This might tell them that we have Kaldra in hand if we're going to get the Batterskull, although we could just get Lion Sash, because this will outgrow the Uro relatively quickly. We've already got the graveyard covered. I'd rather just pad our life total, I think. Let's cast this one. What do we want to name here colour-wise? I think it's just white. It can't be blue. I doubt they'd have brought it in any sort of Pyroblasty type stuff. They could have had the main deck. We don't want to name, I guess, black. Doesn't matter. Oh, they're ploughing our Stoneforge. A bold choice indeed, given the fact that we have potential infinite combo. Well, I say infinite combo, but A plus B will win the game combo in play pretty much. Let's see what happens here. So we can put a second Painter into play before we activate our Grindstone. That seems like quite a good way of approaching this game. Because they need a removal spell. They also will need a counter spell or a second removal spell if we play this Painter. Because of the Uro, the whole Urza Saga plan is sort of fallen by the wayside now. Prismatic ending on the Soul Guide Lantern. That is interesting to me. Let's just get rid of their graveyard now, I suppose. Snapcaster Mage. Sure. Why didn't they just Prismatic ending our Painter's Servant? This feels like a weird way to do it. So now they don't have any white mana available because they're going to tap this Tundra to plow our Painter's Servant. And then we're just trying to beat Force of Will, I think, at this point. A Ponder. Okay. That's a really weird choice because this is going to resolve and they're not going to get the Ponder. A very strange sequence from our opponent there. They could have just Prismatic ending our Painter's Servant. Or our Painter's Servant if that's what they're trying to kill. There's a Brainstorm. So that's one less blue card potentially in their hand. What we don't want to see here is white mana source. That would be bad for us. That could be okay, but that would mean that they could have force and a removal spell. But let's see how we do. No land, but 3 cards in hand. Alright, we've got a plan here. Get Grindstone. Play as a Saga. Play a second Painter. Name White. Do I think our opponent... I don't think our opponent has Force of Vigor. Right, here's their graveyard. All gone. Excellent. Yeah, so it's pretty much a standard... they might have an Endurance here, actually. But they can't attack with Uro. Well, they can attack with Uro, actually, yeah. If they've got Endurance first, haven't they? Because that puts their entire graveyard on top of their... on the bottom of their library. This makes the Prismatic ending on the Soul Guide Lantern make a lot more sense. But they have to spend 3 mana to Endurance. There's 1 Endurance. Is it just the 1 Endurance in their graveyard? They're definitely going to have more than 1 Endurance in their deck. How many of them are we going to have to get through is the question. So I'm just thinking a bit more about their play with the Prismatic ending. They could have just Snapcasted and tried to get something back that way first. And seen if I'd have cracked it then. And then they might have had to use their Prismatic ending and could have used it on the Painter's Servant. That would have made more sense. I wouldn't crack it. I'd let them have the Prismatic ending. Well, I guess it depends on what they target, really. But I think we probably would just let them have it. And that way they could save themselves more cards, perhaps. Turn the Earth. Oh, what is this card? Choose up to 3 target cards in graveyards. The owners of those cards shuffle them into their libraries. You gain 2 life. So we're doing Island, Seeds of Innocence, and an Endurance. Alrighty. I see what's happening there. It'd be nice if they didn't draw Seeds of Innocence. So turn the Earth, just like an anti-painter tech that they've put in their sideboard. So what we do here is play out our Wasteland here. We will hit this tropical island. Sure, you can float your green. I need to check. There's none more of those weird little cards there. It's just... Alright. We're not going to attack here. So we can grind them now. We know they've got Seeds of Innocence coming, so we don't want to do that. We want to force them to use their green mana on an Endurance this turn. In their upkeep, there's 1 card on top of their library. They've got 1 card in hand, which is either Seeds of Innocence or Endurance. So they draw this card. If they cast Seeds of Innocence, they just blow up all our stuff here, don't they? So we have to blow this up now. Wait, they can't cast Seeds of Innocence and attack with Uro, but they can just not attack with the Uro and then cast Endurance next turn. Yeah, so we have to hit in their upkeep here. Because this way, if they have the Endurance, they have to cast it. And then we can take 6, and then the next turn we can grind them again. Milled Seeds of Innocence. Okay, so they can cast Endurance right now. They have to. And then next turn we get to do this again, and hopefully it'll be good. They've got 4 cards in hand. Sorry, not 1 card now. They've got 4 cards in hand. So they got... I think they targeted a land before. I think it was a snow basic. I might be wrong on that one. I could scroll up and check, but... Sure. Yeah, so this is the thing they have to do. Oh, they've evoked it. Interesting, exiling the Uro. We do lose to a Seeds of Innocence, but we did just see that get shuffled into, like, well, not shuffled, but put on the bottom. They choose the order. Do they choose the order? It's a random order, right? Random order, okay. I can deal with a random order. We take the 6 here. If we draw another land, we can play the Canonist first, and then our opponent's in a spot where they can't cast a spell without us grinding them. Supreme Verdict. It's a pretty good one. Alright, we're back to an Urza Saga game, I guess. Let me play this one. What do you want here? Probably just Retrofitter Foundry and just try and grind our way back that way. Sure. Oh, Grindstone here. So we can make a Retrofitter Foundry, or we can play a Canonist so our opponent can't do cantrip into useful spell. Weird reset of this game. Our opponent's got 8 minutes to win 2 rounds. We're not doing anything this turn, so we might as well F6 through it. Like, I don't think this Esper Sentinel is going to do as much. Oh, they've conceded. Sure. Excellent. That was a really weird one. The first game we really showcased the Urza Saga grind plan. In the second game, we had the sort of resiliency of getting our painter and forcing them to go for all these hoops just not to lose. And then eventually we were just left with more stuff because our lands are threats and our opponent's lands aren't really. Yeah, weird one. Oh well, that's another win. Let's go to round 4. We have a turn 3 combo. We can take a turn off for playing Mother of Runes. Seems like a good place to be. Depending on what our opponent does turn 1, might inform if we try and go on turn 3 or if we have the Mother of Runes protection. Okay, usually Once Upon a Time decks don't really have a lot of removal, so I think we're just going to play Grindstone on 1, Painter on 2, and then try and kill them on 3. Assuming Spirit Guide. If they play a Chalice this turn, that's real bad for us. If they play a Blood Moon, that's fine. We have a White Source, we have a combo that ignores what they're doing. We'll get this thing out now before they have a Chalice. They've already used their Assuming Spirit Guide. The thing we're trying to watch out for now is Fury. So maybe we're supposed to take a turn off and play 2 Protection Guides. Depends how much our opponent commits to the board here. Okay. If they're just attacking with the Mages of the Moon, then we're just taking his damage and probably deploying these 2 guys. Actually, we can only deploy one of them because of the Blood Moon. Another Grindstone. Okay. Let's play out Mother of Runes. And do we want a second Grindstone here? What does the second Grindstone do? I don't think it does anything. No, I think we just pass and see if this Mother of Runes can do the job for us. So we can play Painter's Servant and Skrelv next turn. There's a Mountain. Our opponent can play something like a Fable this turn if they want to. Yeah, we're not blocking here. We've got a lot of life points to work with here. So let's just take the damage and carry on with our lives. Okay, so this is active now. So we'll play this out. And we'll play out this guy. Right, we're protected from Fury here. So our opponent would have to have 2 red cards and 2 Furies. Okay, they're scooping because they know they've got the kill next turn and we're protected. Excellent. So, for this deck, we're going to want stuff that blows up artifacts and enchantments. So that's Lorana the Third Path and March for the Road to Light. Source to Plowshares here, pretty good, especially since they're going to have some creatures that we're going to have to answer at some point. So these are things we want. Things we don't really want. Soul Guide Lantern. That doesn't feel very useful. Portable Hole is okay. We can shoot her for it with Oswald, but we're going to have a lot of our artifacts getting blown up this game. So that's something we really need to keep an eye on. Stuff the Storyteller. How useful is that going to be here? Canonist is going to be pretty blank, actually. That's a pretty easy cut. 3 more to find. The Esper Sentinel might be alright. I think we do want Mother of Runes because we're bringing in a load of red stuff to smash our bits and pieces. Pithing Needle. Depends what sort of build they're on, really. I think we can probably trim a Pithing Needle. I don't think Crucible of Worlds is actually going to be useful. We're unlikely to get stuff going under a Blood Moon. Although you can sometimes just Trinisphere out your opponent. Like their own Trinisphere can kill them with Crucible of Worlds and Wastelands and things. But we need to find cuts somewhere, right? So I guess this goes... And maybe it's stuff the Storyteller. Although I do want to draw a lot of cards. Tricky. Maybe it's an Esper Sentinel because they're going to have a lot of spare mana. Sure, we're going to submit like this and see how it feels. This hand is a little bit on the slow side, but these prison decks do tend to be a little bit slow. We're pretty cold to the goblins, though. I think I will keep this one to see how it plays out, but I'm not confident on this one. A fetch land. That is not what I was expecting to see out of our opponent. I guess we'll play out our planes first. We're looking at Lorana the Third Path doing a lot of work here, potentially. If our opponent's not casting anything on 3 mana, you can be darn sure that I'm going to Wasteland them. If your hand doesn't do anything till you have 4 mana, I am going to Wasteland every land you play that I can. Cavern of Souls. Sure. Just going to name Human. Are they actually on the red-green initiative, not like Stompy deck? Not the Moon Stompy. Interesting. Say no. Attacking the mana base of these decks is very good, and you should always try it if you can. They're trying to cast 4-drops. We're saying no to that. So we have our combo lined up as well now. And our opponent no longer has mana. I love playing Wasteland. Oh, look at this sweet combo we've got on the roll here. Start the Storyteller, baby. Let's go. So we can cast Painted Servant and draw an additional card next turn if we want to. And then we have the combo sewn up. Now our opponent's hand might have removal spells for our Painted Servant, etc. That might be why they kept this. Force of Vigor. There you go. We don't get a card from our stuff. We don't get to tutor for our Grindstone. But what did our opponent pitch to that? Is it the mountain guy? Another Force of Vigor. Sure. Alright. Urborg. I'd love to have a Wasteland here, but we do not have one, sadly. Mother of Runes. So what are we casting here? I think step 1 is attacking our opponent. Give them the business. We're playing our planes. And it's not very mana efficient. But we're going to play a Mother of Runes. Now, if our opponent plays an initiative creature, we do just get to take the initiative right back. Because we've got a flyer. Another reason why Staff of Storyteller is pretty tasty. And we've got a Loran to blow up any sort of enchantments they may have. Or artifacts. Searing Spirit Guide is anti-exile zone. What are we going to see here? Minsk and Boo. No, it's red. So it's probably Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Yeah, there it is. Alright. Our opponent's deck is more creature heavy than we thought. But we did board in our source to Plowshares, as you can see. So we do have answers to this. There's a green source for them. Don't know if they're going to have any 1 mana green plays here. Seems unlikely in their Chalice of the Void deck. Well, I'm assuming they're a Chalice of the Void deck. That would make sense. A Fury. Pitching Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Okay, I guess our Spirit token isn't long for this world, is it? Sure. Okay, so they're basically just trying to ride this 1 Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Which they can say do, because the Undersea is a mechanic that is pretty great. But let's see what we do here. So we have a Plow, and we have a creature. So we're going to play our creature. And we're going to name... They might have something like Anarchy or something weird in their sideboard. We just name Black. They'll pass the turn. The idea is that they go to forge up on their Caves of Chaos Adventurer, and then we plow in response, and we've wasted the room, and they're sort of going down the aggro room when they should be going down the card advantage, the card selection room. Let's see. Here we go. They're forging. We say no to this. If they don't play a creature now, we can take back the initiative, or take it for the first time. We can play a Minsk and Boo. We can bounce the little Boo over and over again. So that's fine. What they might do is they might play some sort of Blood Moon effect first to stop us being able to do that. But if they do that, we get to smash in with this paint. I say smash. We get into creep in for 1 single point of damage, but we get the initiative back, which can filter us to find a Grindstone to win the game with. Our opponent not have a play here. They could have an Endurance. Source of Plowshare is quite handy. I haven't seen these decks playing Endurance, but I think they probably should be. Alright, so we get the initiative. Do we play out this Lorana the Third Path now, or do we just hold up this Plow? The Ran gives us more combat damage, but I don't think that's what this game is about. I think we just want to keep that as a surprise to blow something up if they invest resources into it. We got the Plow, so we're very unlikely to lose initiative unless they play a guy that just takes the initiative, which they definitely have in their deck. It's a 3-drop. A green 3-drop. Once upon a time. Oof. It's not great for them. Undermountain Adventurers. They can get the initiative next turn. Unless they've got a Soul Land in their hand right now. Which is possible. But again, we plow this, go back, get the initiative. Start looking at more cards. We go down the Lost Well side. Okay. Let's go down Lost Well. What do we have? Esper Sentinel I don't like. And I don't really want this land either. We're just looking for... Okay, more plows is fine. Do we play out the Loran here? I don't think we do. We've got 2 plows available now. We could have kept one of the lands to play a Batterskull out, but I don't think we want to go seals down on our plows at any point. So we're going to the stash soon, which can also make a Batterskull for us if we want to. We're just looking for the Grindstone to win the game here. So here's Minsk and Boo. Into our open Karakas feels pretty bad. No. They should just play their Undermountain Adventurer here. Like, we have that beat as well, but... Alright, so we go into the stash. Let me draw a card. Plains. So now we're kind of incentivized to not play the Batterskull here. I guess you can play the Batterskull and hold up the Karakas for this. But the problem is if they play the Undermountain Adventurer, they can sacrifice that. Whereas we can just kind of blow up all their things. So do I want to Loran on the third path here, just to have another threat in play? We're going to Catacombs next turn, so we are getting another threat anyway. Maybe I'm playing this one too cautiously, I don't know. I like having the option to kill 3 things here. So it's going to be Undermountain Adventurer. No, it's a Caves of Chaos Adventurer. So they get the initiative back now. So where does this makes them hit us for 5, I believe, because they went down the Forge route. They could go to Arena, though. The layout of this is all messed up right now. Okay, yep, so they denned us for 5. Sure. What are you doing with your Minsk and Boo? Or your Boo, rather, than your Minsk. Alright, let's bounce the Boo. If our opponent minuses the Minsk, we blow this out. Putting 3 counters on this. I will respond. No. A Fury. What do we do about the Fury? Not a great deal, unfortunately. What do they pitch to this? Assume Spirit Guide, sure. So we're going to lose our painter here. Which means this is the turn we draw the... Okay, we drew a Fiddlebender. How do we feel about Fiddlebender here? We kind of want to keep Karakas and this open at the same time. So I think we are on... Play out this Fiddlebender here. Next turn we can cycle one thing up and then we can cycle something else up the following turn. So they're going to go into the archives this turn and draw an extra card. And then next turn they're going to... Throwing the Dead 3. So we need to kind of steal the initiatives. Maybe we're supposed to play the Ram there, but I like having the Plow and the Karakas there just so our opponent can't fling anything else. We can use our Oswald to go and get a Pithing Needle to shut down the Minsk and Boo if we want. And then we can transmute it into an artifact later on to win the game, into a painter later on. Although we need the Grindstone. This is the only thing that gets a Grindstone for us right now. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, we have a Loran on the third path for that one, so... Fan of that. We can use our Portable Hole on the Shaman token. Probably have to attack with Oswald. Blow up their Fable. Alright, let's return this to the hand. An Ancient Den, sure. So it's a pretty good one for us. Let's make a Portable Hole. Yep, that's the only thing it can target, so we get rid of this. Even if we lose our Portable Hole, it's still done its work here. We go attack, so we attack our opponent so we can get the initiative. We don't get it if we hit a Planeswalker. This stops them going into the thing, although they do have the Undermountain Adventurer that can do it for them. We get 4-1 Skellington. Just gets to blow up their Fable of the Mirror Breaker. We're still holding up Plow here. Maybe if we'd played the Loran earlier, we might have been able to get the initiative back earlier, but the problem is we've kind of been checking the Boo with this. We would have had to take some damage from the Boo somewhere along the lines, I think. Undermountain Adventurer, back again. Sure. This will steal the initiative back. This will put them into Throwing the Dead 3. Let's see what they find. Yeah, this is fine. It's not a Fury. We can't immediately kill the Collector Roof if they get that, because it will have Hexproof. They could get the Undermountain Adventurer here, but we have the ability to plow something, bounce this. So we can plow this, bounce this. Okay, they're just getting the Undermountain Adventurer. This one now taps for a whole load of mana, though, which is important. That's what they do with their Minsk and Boo. If you draw either Painter's Servant or Grindstone, we can win this turn. So maybe we're supposed to draw with Loran. I don't know about that, though. Sacrifice a creature. Alright, we will bounce this. We will plow this Undermountain Adventurer. So they don't get to draw the cards because it's not a hamster. What they do get to do here is they can sacrifice their 6/7 and kill one of our guys. But they lose their Boo and we get the initiative back. They're targeting our face. Huh. That's weird to me. Maybe it's the Oswald you want there. Okay, they've just conceded from the game there. All right. That felt pretty good. The fact that their initiative guys are a lot slower was pretty good. If we'd have known what they were properly, we would have kept this Pithing Needle in so we can deal with the Minsk and Boo that way. But we just didn't know that was a thing that was in their deck. I just thought they were like a straight up red prisonies type deck, really. But other than that, seems fine. You can board in things like Containment Priest to stop when they do their big throwing the dead 3, but I think it's better just to sort of beat around it and get them that way. All right, we are 3-1 going into the final round. Let's see if we can get the 4-1. Opponent's mulligan to 6. We're in the final round. This hand is all right if we're not getting hit by a Wasteland. We have something for Storm type decks. We have something for like aggressive decks. We have the if we need to be aggressive, we have this Fiddlebender to find the other half of our combo. We have Sagas to try and leverage against the control. So we kind of have everything we want here apart from the basic planes. One drop would be nice, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. We can get a little bit bodied by a Wasteland potentially, and a Blood Moon kind of shuts us down completely. But I'm willing to play those odds. Mycosynth Gardens. This is either going to be making Phyrexian Dreadnoughts or Lion's Eye Diamond. That seems to be Mycosynth Gardens' use in Legacy at the moment. I haven't really seen anyone copy anything else with it. Unless our opponent's found something cool to do with it, in which case, sweet, and I look forward to seeing it. Lion's Eye Diamond, sure. So we're on some sort of Stormy deck. So we're probably losing game 1. I'm going to play out Urza Saga first because it can tick up and find something useful. It means if we draw a Painter Servant, maybe we can combo them on turn 3. We're probably just playing the Canonist on turn 2 though. Having a tutor target here, being able to tutor for something, whether it's just like a Pithing Needle or whatever. Alright, I'm yawning a bit here, I'm quite tired. Okay. Swamp. This could be like an earlier iteration of Saga Storm. Because I know Tony was running the Mycosynth Gardens in there for a little bit, but he's since cut them. They could have sort of innovated towards the Mycosynth Gardens a bit more. No play from our opponent. Okay. We are going to play an Ethersworn Canonist and see how that goes for us. Grindstone, not that exciting. We do need to play the Canonist here. I don't think we can let our opponent just have another free turn when they've got Lion's Eye Diamonds in their deck. They're up to no good. That's what Lion's Eye Diamond says to me. This should make it quite difficult for our opponent to Storm kill us. If they are indeed a Saga Storm deck list, then they're going to be forced onto the Saga plan, which is something that we can beat them with. Because we've got... Well, their Saga isn't up and running. They didn't have one, so that's good. And we have some decent threats coming down the pipeline. So, yeah. Don't hate the spot we're in. Like, we can even name Urza Saga with the Pithing Needle just to shut down that, and we've shut down both halves of their deck if we think they are Saga Storm. Which I think they probably are. I think this is the only place I've seen this selection of cards before. So it'll be pretty annoying for our own Urza Saga if we do that, but I think overall for the matchup that's what we need to do. Let's float some mana here. We'll get a Pithing Needle. We'll name Urza's Saga. And doesn't look pretty, but here's an Urza Saga. So we can play out this Crucible of Worlds this turn, because we're not going to get another turn to cast that necessarily. Or we can just try and play a Stoneforge and a Grindstone and just see if we get there. I think it is probably the Stoneforge is the correct play here. So we can play a Stoneforge and our Grindstone because it's an artifact. Let's get this Kaldra Compleat. So what our opponent can play is they can make... This could be a Grindstone. This could be a Phyrexian Dreadnought thing they're trying to do. It could also just get them a Haywire Mite, and they've got the mana. They can filter into green mana with and activate the Haywire Mite if that's what they're on. So we just want to reduce our opponent's life total. So if we lose something like our S1 Canonist, which can't be Haywire Mited, but the Pithing Needle can. If somehow they can unlock an Ad Nauseam under all this, we would like to be able to have their life total low. So what they could do is they could do an Ad Nauseam in our turn and draw loads of artifacts, enough to maybe play them all and then cast the Tendrils. Okay, our opponent's conceded from the game. I'm pretty sure I got the correct read on what their deck was. So these Deafening Silences are going to be good. The other March of Otherworldly Lights are going to be good here. Loran's probably going to be fine. I don't really like the other stuff here. So they sometimes have an echo in the sideboard, but sometimes not. So I don't think it's worth boarding these things in. I think this is our plan. Crucible of Worlds. Sorry, buddy. You're too slow. We're probably not going to need huge amounts of mana disruption here. And Skrelv's probably out of protection here. And I think Skrelv is the weakest of those things. Soulrider Lantern. It cantrips. It can make a Cabal ritual slightly worse. So I don't hate it. I don't really like it that much. Portable Hold is nice. You can get rid of some of their tokens and things. Staff of Storyteller seems good, but this matchup, maybe it's too slow. If we're doing something like this, would I prefer any staffs over any of these things? Retrofitters is a bit blank, isn't it? But it can give us chump blockers for big construct tokens, which I think is going to be a little bit more useful than Staff of the Storyteller in this particular matchup. Yeah, sure. We're going to submit like this. There's an argument for having a sash instead of the... Ooh, yeah. We've got a Canonist. That's one of our big cards. We can keep this. We probably... I don't think we play out the Saga on 1. Then we play it out on 2. So turn 1 is like Karakas into Esper Sentinel. So we might be able to force a little bit of card advantage on our end here. I imagine we're getting Thoughtseized or Duressed on turn 1. No. City of Traitors. Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. Are they going here? No. Deafening Silence is the best draw in our deck here. Let's see if we get it. We did not. We do have a basic Plains though, which can cast this Sentinel, which probably isn't going to do a lot. But it might do something. It'll also beat down a little bit. We need to survive this turn. Because our opponent plays City of Traitors first, I'm not necessarily sure we are going to survive this turn. Because I don't think you play that. Oh wow, okay. That means that was the only land in their hand, which is why they played it. I still don't think you actually play it if it is your only land though. This turn we'll play out this Saga. Canonist, say hello. Go to attacks. And we can jam a Fiddlebender. Or we can just start making construct tokens and just beat down that way. Which is probably the quickest way to reduce our opponent's life total to 0. Right. Probably going to see something big here. Maybe like a Wishclaw Talisman. That'd be my guess. Which is something that they can play and then also play other spells from this turn if they want to. Feed the Swarm. I assume they're going to pay for the Sentinel trigger. Yep, sure. So we're losing our Canonist. Our opponent's down to 3 cards though. So if we play Fiddlebender this turn, next turn we have 4 mana. 1 mana to turn this into a thingy and the other to grind our opponent. That seems like a good play to me. Yeah, so this turn we play Oswald Fiddlebender and Pithing Needle on Wishclaw Talisman. I play out the Fiddlebender first. Doesn't really matter which way you play them, I don't think. Our opponent's unlikely to interact with it right now. They're probably just reading this. This is why it's taking so long to resolve. Wishclaw Talisman. Now, they do still have Infernal Tutors. But we have the win next turn. Because we can pay 3 mana, play another land, use that to spin up our Painted Servant and win the game. They're paying here, interesting. That means they're probably not trying to win this turn. Okay, so we won this game, I think. Just going to get the nice Grindstone there. Play this. We'll sacrifice this. We'll name black in case they do have Snuff Outs in their deck. Attack our opponent with Grindstone. Let's see if I did get the read on their deck completely right. It does feel like Black Saga Storm. Yeah, it's pretty standard Black Saga Storm. Looks very nice with all black. And they've conceded. So we got the match and we got the 4-1. Pretty nice. I think overall that was a pretty good showcase of what our deck can do, I would say. The only matchup we lost to was Elves, and I think we have the ability to beat Elves with this deck. I've beaten Elves a fair few amount of times. With this, Canonist is just such a beating. I have played 4 Canonists in previous builds, 3 in the main, 1 in the board, because Canonist is better than Deafening Silence in the Elf matchup. So maybe we could tweak that if that's the thing you wanted. Maybe we should have mulliganed a little bit harder, but I think we were a little bit unlucky in the Elf matchup where our opponent's 1 elf they had was the Quirion Ranger, which shut down our double Wasteland plan that would have been excellent if it was any other elf. So that was just a little bit unfortunate they drew one of their... I think they usually run 2 Quirion Rangers. So sometimes they get you. Let's chat about the deck. So, yeah, the deck feels pretty strong. Stoneforge Mystic is something that draws the ire of control decks and immediately requires answers. And I think we showcased why Stoneforge Mystic is good in this deck today. So we had opponents that had to spend removal on it immediately. We also had a Doomsday opponent, and this let us chunk a big creature into play and start smashing our Doomsday opponent. So it kind of did, you know, both things of soaking up removal and applying pressure, which is what it's there for. So I think Grindstone Forge is back on the menu. I do also like the fact that it makes you slightly better against Meltdown, because Meltdown's a very strong card. With 8 cast being good at the moment, people should be playing more Meltdowns, which makes 8 card less good, etc. But we get to play one less Ancient Den, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it helps. It means that getting double Ancient Den hands, which you just immediately lose to Meltdown with, those don't happen as often. And also, with Stoneforge Mystic, you put into play like a 7 or 5 mana artifact. That's not getting Meltdowned. So you get to play around that much more nicely than the other builds. Also, Ingenious Smith is quite a slow clock. Stoneforge Mystic is a much faster clock. Obviously, Ingenious Smith can help you dig for your combo, which we can't really do with Stoneforge. But what we can do is dig with the Staff of the Storyteller. Now, we didn't play that many matchups where Staff of the Storyteller was great, because we played a lot of really quick decks today. You know, we had Elves, we had Doomsday, we had the Gruul Initiative deck, stuff like that. So we didn't really have many of the slow decks. But when we did play against that Bant control deck, the Staff of the Storyteller was pretty good. It gave us more card advantage than our opponent had in a control deck. And obviously we're not a control deck, so it was just really strong. I really liked how it felt. And I've ordered some, so I'm going to be playing them. I don't think you can get them in foil because it's like a weird commander set right now. So they're going to look a bit out of place in my foil deck. But nevertheless, I think these are worth trying. Whether or not 4 is the right number, I don't know. But the thing is, they are so much better in multiples that I do think it's a thing you want as a 4 of. Now, our 2-drop slot is stacked. This is a third of our deck is 2-drops. But then again, 14, so a quarter of our deck is 1-drops. So our deck is pretty low to the ground, and we're a Wasteland deck. Now, the one downside here is that we do need a bunch of mana to activate the Grindstone. But in this league, I'll tell you a few things that I didn't miss. I didn't miss the Aether Vials. I think having... we're an Urza Saga deck, which already makes us good against control decks. And, you know, the Canonist and stuff and the Sentinels are pretty irritating and good, as well as all these Mother of Runesy type things. It means we don't have these horrible Aether Vials coming off the top of our deck. Because we already have a few blank draws in terms of, we're playing Grindstone, we're playing Painter's Servants. These cards on their own do nothing. So I don't like the idea of having too many Aether Vials that we can draw into. Now, that being said, Aether Vial is a very powerful card, and I've definitely won a lot of games because of it. Especially against decks attacking on mana base, for example. But if we're trying to win with Grindstone, and they're attacking our mana base, it's going to be effective anyway, because the Aether Vial can give us all the mana in the world, but it can't give us mana to activate a Grindstone, right? So I don't mind cutting the Aether Vials here. What else did I not miss? Didn't miss the Shadow Spear. I don't think that would have made a difference at any point. The Retrofitters was another tool for control decks. So control decks are a thing that exists now that Initiative's gone, or Monowhite Initiative's gone because of White Plume banning. Which means having the Retrofitters Saga Storyteller combo just means that you can hang in there with these sort of grindy decks and outgrind them relatively easily. Before, it felt like if you were playing this deck and you didn't have an Urza Saga against a control deck, you would struggle a little bit. But now we've got the Storyteller, which, yeah, sure, it only draws 1 card to start with. But then we have Retrofitter Foundry. Then we have Stoneforge Mystic putting stuff into play. And then, you know, eventually when we do draw a Saga, it's not just like a little thing that we can make a couple of little guys with. It also draws us cards, because sometimes our guys aren't going to be useful. You know, our guys are just going to be like chump blockers or whatever. Whereas turning them into additional cards is great. And every single Storyteller you get... So Staff of the Storyteller is a bit like Accumulated Knowledge, except you get a 1/1 with it every time as well. That's kind of how it feels. except, you know, you do also get other random value out of it too. Like, it's not as strong here as it is in the shark decks that I like to call Shark Tail, because, you know, it's Staff the Storyteller and it's sharks, so it's telling a story. Anyway, but I think it's still a really powerful tool, and white is obviously desperate for card advantage, and it does fit into our package quite well. It's an artifact, we can go and find it if we need to, and we can just do, it gives us the Oswald just finding more Staff of Storyteller grinding. So we can just go, okay, we'll just grind, we'll just get another Staff of Storyteller. Okay, we'll just get another Staff of Storyteller. And we can do that a couple of times and just end up with so many cards that we can bury a lot of opponents. It's a bit like how the mono red painter deck has access to the Phyrexian Dragon engine with welding it in and out. It's kind of a similar thing to that, where we can just fiddle bend more Staff of Storytellers. What I do think, though, is that we might need another good 3-drop. Now, what that's going to be, I don't know. I'm going to have to have a think. But we definitely have so many 2-drops that could potentially be cycled into something better. So maybe that's the thing we could look at. We don't really need Ensnaring Bridge when we're playing a Stoneforge deck. But I'll have a think. It could be something like, I don't think that the thing that gets all the abilities of lands in all graveyards, I don't think that's where we want to be. But that's a card that I really like. As you can imagine, I love Crucible of Worlds, so I love all this sort of weird landy type stuff. But yeah, I think this was a pretty successful outing for the deck. 4-1 is, you know, reasonable scoreboard, and the only match we lost was one where I feel that we could probably win that one a lot of days of the week. Obviously, we did beat the Doomsday deck, which I would say most of the time we would lose. So 4-1 feels like a fair record for the deck. And Staff of the Storyteller was good when it was good, and it got bordered out when it was bad. And even when it's bad, it's still fine. Like, we forced our opponent into Force of Vigoring it. We didn't manage to get the card out of that one that time, but it gave us a 1-1, which is actually really useful because our opponent had the initiative, so we were able to pressure it and take the initiative or, like, clip away at stuff. So I think it really showcased how good this Storyteller card is in those specific instances we had it. And even when it's not great, it's still fine. So, yeah, I think this might not be the exact future that Monowhite Painter takes, but I'm certainly looking forward to jamming some more games with this in the future. Sideboard-wise, I think maybe we could trim on Containment Priest for something if we wanted it. That's probably where I would look to alter the sideboard. But other than that, I think it's pretty fine. Yeah, I like playing Monowhite Painter. I think we're done for the league today, and I hope you enjoyed this one. If you're still here, like, comment, subscribe. All these things help. Join my Discord, etc., etc. Share my stuff to Reddit if you want. Go back, watch my old videos. Anything to help me out is great. And just keep jamming Legacy and enjoying. If you have any ideas of good 3-drops I can play in this deck to 2 to 4, I would love to hear it in the comments. So please smash one load of those. Save me going through Gatherer. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.